بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. I was thinking that, alhamdulillah, our oral tradition, and especially in the Shia school of thought, tends to be the one that preserved our heritage that we've inherited from the Imams. Yet, I think it's also in an attempt to do something a little different. I was thinking that perhaps you guys can help me as in one part of what I wanted to present today. So reflections are something I'm confident to share, but in telling a story of a companion, I'm afraid that I may not do them justice. So inshallah, throughout my few reminders and trying to review all these stories that we listen to year after year, and we all know most of the details of these stories. So let us just kind of take an approach of reviewing the story of the Ansar that I'd like to talk about today. So I'd like to first start by quoting Rumi in a discussion that I believe he was inspired to talk about from Hajj. And since that we've just left the Hijjah, I felt that quoting this discussion would be something nice to share. So, by God, we must always have hope. Faith itself consists of fear and hope. Someone asked me, hope itself is good, but what is this fear? And I said, show me a fear without a hope, or a hope without a fear. The two are inseparable. So before I go on in sharing my own reflections of this, I'd like to ask, especially my fellow Hajjis who have just returned, what does the idea of hope and fear remind you of? It was our sa'i between Safa and Marwa. And today I wanted to talk about, when I read this, I was actually trying to make these connections last minute, to be honest, and it hit me that the Ansar and the Sahaba of Imam Hussein that I'd like to speak about is someone that went through his own sa'i between his fears and his hopes, through different transitions in his realization of where the truth is. And that Ansar had, he was the most one that I could relate to, because when I was trying to see which Ansar I should choose, and I was going through all the Ansars that the other brothers listed and spoke about, they were so great that I couldn't even think that, how can I relate to these people? But so I wanted someone who experienced a change, someone who experienced a simple moment of truth and decided to act upon it. And for that purpose, I chose this person who, between his struggle and fear and hope, he fulfilled the role that his mother has given him, with the name that his mother has given him, of being, I suppose that some of you can guess, حر بن يزيد الرياحي. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. So inshallah we can remember some aspects of the story of Al-Hur and how he helped Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and then hopefully try to apply them to our own little struggles within the short time that I have. So when we look at the story of Hur, it's interesting to see that he was, how many of you, can I move this in my hand or? No? Okay. I feel more comfortable this way. Okay, so when we look at him, so do any of you remember how many, first of all, who was the leader who sent Hur after the group of Imam Hussein, after the caravan? Do you remember the name of that? Who was Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. And how many soldiers were with him? Do you remember how many soldiers were sent, or what are the most narrations? So what do most narrations say? 1,000, yeah. So See, by doing this, you guys are also taking the responsibility of the truth of the quotations of this. So there were 1,000 soldiers that were sent with this person, with Al-Hur, and Al-Hur himself was one of the shurafa. He was known, and by shurafa it means he was one of very highly respected leaders of his community. And this was a character that he had from before, from Jahiliyyah, and from the age of ignorance, and from after Islam. He remained to be among the shurafa and the leaders of his community, and was known for his bravery. So when he was sent he was ordered first to stop the caravan of Imam Hussein from getting to Kufa. And upon the arrival, there were, when I was trying to think about, just to get back before that, when I was trying to think about him, I thought of him as someone who took the chance to change from being on the extreme end of jur, of zulm, of injustice, to go to the extreme end of justice. And I was thinking, how can we as far as we are from those kind of people, be able to relate to someone that went from the two polar opposites? Because for us, it's always good to take an approach of step by step and changing whatever we need to change, given our capabilities. But then when I started examining his journey and how he met Imam Hussein and what happened throughout the journey, I realized that it wasn't just going from one extreme end to the other. It was a gradual one through the contemplations that he went through little instances that happened with him in his interaction with Imam Hussein. And this truly tells us a lot about how we need to interact with others, whether it is that we need to change them, or whether it is that we just need to show them our faith and show them who we are and what our identity is. So in the first moment of interaction that happened between Imam Hussein and Hur, first of all, the Ansar of Imam Hussein, one of them thought he saw nakhil, he thought he saw palm trees from a distance, and eventually they realized it was actually the soldiers of Al-Hur and him coming towards them. So it wasn't really the khair that they had first anticipated, it was evil, or what looked like evil, that was coming towards them. So when they came, Imam Hussein, obviously having the ilm al-ghaib, he knows what they're coming for, but he still welcomed them. And he, does anyone know what Imam Hussein did to their horses and to them?
Gave them water.
He gave them water. So, and ironically, they were ordered later to prevent him from water. So I think there is a message in that for Imam Hussein to, give even when you know that this will be taken from you, and give the one thing that will be taken from you. And be proactive about it. So he quenched their thirst and he gave them water. And then when Salat time came, does anyone know what happened? When Salat time came, when Dhuhr time came? They all prayed together. And that one instance, when I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, Imam Hussein did not just simply leave them to pray, and he did not just simply pray on his own. What he did, he actually gave them the option. He told them, he told Al-Hur, do you want to pray with your people? And by doing that, there was a great reminder for Al-Hur that, do you want to separate from us, or do you want to have that? Imam Hussein did not even tell, come and join us, but he said, do you want to pray with your people? And he gave them that freedom. And that also shows us that even when we disagree with people, we need to give them that option to disagree with us. So he offered him that option. And Al-Hur said, no, we will pray with you. And that in itself is admission that he is surrendering to the right path. And that for me, I felt like that was the first gradual reminder for him that what am I doing? Had he been stubborn, or had he been truly convinced of what he was doing, then he would have prayed in a different group. But he chose to follow the salah of Imam Hussein. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. And that was the first moment of, I feel that was the first moment that could have even sparked that idea of what am I doing, and to start thinking within himself. So after that prayer, another instance happened, which is a discussion of, why are you coming? And I have been ordered not to let you pass. And we see that even in his following of the orders, he was kind of following a pattern of, this is what I've been ordered, this is what I promised I would do, and I'm doing it. He did not, although he knew how sensitive the situation was, he did not take, or what I see is that he did not take the stand of, I will attack them by himself. And he wouldn't have been penalized for that, but he still went with whatever was agreed on as minimum as possible, the way that I feel it went. So when the discussion happened, and Al-Hur said, we have not, and Imam Hussein said, I am responding to your books, I have been called by the people of Kufa. And Al-Hur said, Wallahi, I do not know about this. And what books are you speaking of? And when he was presented with these, he did take a look at them. And I feel that that was a moment where we are to learn that we have to present our hujjah to the people that we know are not doing the right thing. And we have to present our proof. Imam Hussein does not need to show these letters, but he did went to the effort of asking his companions, bring all these letters, let us show them to Al-Hur. So this hujjah in itself, I feel, added on the salah and added on what that moment of contemplation that later on made Al-Hur decide to join Imam Hussein's caravan. So I also found a hadith, I am not sure how credible its narration is, but it was interesting to see that Al-Hur himself later tells the Imam before he passes away that when I was leaving the castle of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad right after being ordered to come after you, I heard a voice telling me something along the line in Arabic, Abshir khayran ayyuha al-hur, which means that goodness is coming your way. And he looked around and he wanted to see who's telling him and what kind of goodness could come from what he's going after. And that also, that kind of intuition shows that there was a voice, whether it was a voice within him or whether it was a sign, because after all, like I started, it is only those who Allah wishes to guide that are guided. So that sense of intuition was also a reminder for him to question himself. So finally, and I'm running out of time, so I'm going to jump into the last few points that I was going to do. I'd like us to take a time when he started deciding that he did want to change his mind. Some of the narrations say that he discussed it with his son, and his slave heard, and he said, "Oh, take me with you." And that in itself also shows the kind of akhlaq that he had in terms of the equality that some of the previous speakers were talking about, that when he made that decision, despite his high status, he and his son and his slave went all together and they joined the caravan of Imam Hussein. When he was asked, we all know the famous quote that he says when he was asked about where are you going, what did he say? If I had to choose between heaven and hell, then I swear I will not choose other than heaven. And that shows that he now knew where his true fear and hope was. They went from being hopeful to have the rida of the sultan of his time, or the rida of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, to realizing that my hope has to be to attain the rida of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to attain Jannah. And that that should be my hope, and that my fear should be that I should not be on the wrong track. So there was a reversal, and that reversal only happened after he took the time to go through some contemplation, after he took the time to listen what the other person offered in terms of the hujjah that Imam Hussein did, and after he took the time to truly follow that feeling within him. So for us, I'd like to ask everyone to, tonight after we go home and we think about everything that was spoken about, is let us identify our hopes and fears. And let us identify our goals. Because these goals are the ones who determine what these hopes and fears are. And let us try to maybe change them and take one step at a time to reverse our hopes and fears if we do know that they are on the wrong track. Because if you really want to know, my last quote for Rumi is that things are made clear by their opposites. So if you really want to know what your fears and hopes, also look for things that are opposite of what you know deep down what your fears are, and look for their opposite and start examining, because we need to learn how to question tradition and how to question ourselves. And once questioning begins, then we can truly be able to define and redefine and continually grow to know ourselves and know our needs and know how to get to husn al-aqibah, inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.